Somatic practices are a group of movement practices such as Feldenkrais or Alexander technique that don't emphasise the external appearance so much of the movement as the internal experience of the participant. And it's a lot about learning about your habits of movement and trying to extend these, learning new repertoires of movement. And in this project I was interested in how this internal experience also connects with the external world around us. And I was drawn to look at Sandra Reeve's work because context and place and how that affects you as you move and behave is a big part of her work.
My background started in physical theatre, mindfulness training, and then I've worked for 30 years with Suprapta Suryodharma, who's a Javanese movement artist. And I'm also a dance movement psychotherapist. I'm particularly interested in bringing some of the tools that I work with into working with a group of different kinds of artists, so visual and dance and theatre amongst others, into the urban environment. And some of the specific dynamics that I'll be looking at are point, line and angle, which are to do with perceptual experiences in any environment, and proportion, scale, and transition and position, which is how we see the taskscape in a landscape, for example, or in an urban environment, the human activity within any environment. So those are the points that I'll be selecting from the dynamics that I work with.
I did attend as a participant observer a workshop in Sligo in Ireland, which is where I'm actually from. So we were looking at moving in that rural environment. And then I went down to Dorset and I had an opportunity to observe a workshop held by a Javanese movement artist who really informed Sandra's work, and I got to interview him. So I really learned about Sandra's background and where the movement came from, and again cultural context and his background came into it and how that affects the moving body. And now we're looking forward to the workshop or retreat in Coventry looking at urban environments and how the body behaves in an urban rather than a rural environment. We have had 15 artists from different disciplines: theatre, visual art, performance art, sound, dance, and we worked together for a week. We had sort of facilitated time with Sandra Reeve, learning the principles of the work inside and outside, and then the artists also had time to go and work on their own projects in the city, and that resulted in a sharing at the end of the week. So it was kind of a way of gathering kind of some of the materials and the experiences of the artists and sharing that with the public audience. So we had a kind of an indoor installation which people could walk around. Some of the artists talked about images or video, and they moved in the studio, and then we went outside to some sites and there were performances in these sites as well. So that was kind of one of the big outcomes. And in addition to that, I'm also writing, obviously, a chapter for a book. And we also have been, sharing outputs through social media. So we were using WhatsApp, Facebook, we were tweeting, and we're gathering information now, images and video for the CDARE website as well. One of the key aims of the project was to start a UK case study, and I was focusing on Sandra's work. Because I was interested by the fact that she's actually coming from a theatre background, and there's a lot more written about dance and somatic practices. But what was also interesting was throughout the course of doing this research, I started meeting artists at her workshops and at the retreat who come from different disciplines. So I started to see how somatic practices are being applied in many other disciplines. But also I've been meeting people from other cultures at these workshops and at the retreat. So again, I'm seeing sort of cross-cultural influences on Sandra's work and how it's being shared to other cultures as well. Another key aim was all about context, because often in somatic practices people think it's about your internal experience, and it is, but it's also about how you relate to the world around you. And that's a really big part of Sandra's work. So I've been kind of refining how she goes about that and trying to understand better what this means. So one of the things I was interested in is, if we do this movement in outdoor sites, does it have some impact on the public who are passing by? Does it change their perception of what they see? Is there some political implication of this work? And it sort of brought up questions about, are we imposing our interests by moving in the outdoors, or is it adding something? So that's still something to be debated. I think it does. Personally, I do think it has a positive impact. For example, one of the artists started to talk to the city council about clearing up the river Sherborne area so she could perform there, so she did that. And there were many other projects, like looking at reconciliation in the city or women's roles in the city, all about the bombing in Coventry, and how using movement-based performance can widen public knowledge of these things.